My hair's all crazy. I just got out of the shower. So let's see it. And for anyone that's wondering, YouTube link is in the live stream link tab. All right, take these off. So this little live stream is just going to be a crash course in actionable signals, so you guys know where your stop goes and you know what you're looking for. We're going to try and get through them quick, so we're not going to dive super into it. We're going to try and keep it, it's not going to be surface level, but we're not going to like really dive in super hard. You just want to know what you're looking for, and that's what this video is going to be about. And for everyone that's on the stream, we're going to have some Q&A right at the end. So the first thing is, what are actionable signals? And we're going to be opening some of the Strat Bootcamp stuff here. And if you're interested in getting all of access to all this stuff, we have a boot camp every quarter. So into 2025, there will be another one. But that being said, I'm actually, let me see. I'm going to move my mic here. All right. So an actionable signal is just what we look for in order to create positions. It does not mean we only can trade actionable signals, but it's what we want to be trading. It's a preference because the probability the probabilities are going to be higher when you take an actionable signal. And it could be a combination of candlesticks with the 1s, 2s, and 3s, or specific types like hammers, shooters, dojis, that type of stuff. And that gives us additional information to expect price movement because our signals cause movement to occur. So the first signal is going to be the inside bar, and it's an equilibrium where we get stuck inside the previous range and we form an inside bar, a 1. Once this has closed out, we call this an inside bar. While it is still open, we call it presently inside because it could become a 2 or become a 3. So once it has closed out, it becomes actionable signal, something we look for. And it can either cause reversals or continuations. But the reason we look for it is we have directional price, then we have a contraction in the range, right? An equilibrium where buyers and sellers, they agree on prices. They're just meeting in the middle pretty much. And then it takes one side of that range out and now it's on, right? It was going nowhere. Now the sellers are hitting the bid. This would be an inside bar down, 212 down in this case. You can also have inside bars up, right? Inside bar break to the upside, same exact thing. They agree on prices and now they're going higher. Based on the previous bar's color, if it's green and then you go inside down, then this is getting reversed, right? Regardless of the scenario here, because we're reversing anyone that bought here. And same thing here. If this is red and we go inside bar up, it's reversal. It can be directional, meaning it could be 2 up in red and then 1 and then 2 up, but we're still reversing these guys who got short. And then you can have continuation where the colors match. You'll see it goes inside bar and then it goes up. But since this bar was going up, this has to be continuation. And these are going to be less likely to work given market conditions, meaning if you're just trading every inside bar, you're going to get killed, right? It's not the goal. It's something we look for, but we also use multiple time frame analysis. So when we trade continuations, for example, we need to do this in reference to the continuity and how big that broadening formation is. So we'll talk a little bit about that towards the end, but this would be 212 continuation. And then this would be 212 continuation, right? Confirming the direction of that previous bar to the inside bar. And if we get through it, so when we look for higher probability setups, reversal patterns normally will be higher probability. When it comes to inside bar continuations, when you have long red and green bars on higher time frames, these are super, super important to know about. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to show an example of that with Oklo, which was going today, but a couple of weeks ago, something we traded. And we'll actually pull that up right now. All right. And we'll go Thinkorswim. It's been a little bit more nice to look at in here. Looks like I closed out my charts, so I have to go here. So forgive me, I gotta remove these indicators. So the inside bar during high volatility is going to be much more likely to actually do something, if that makes sense. Because when you have this really high volatility, this is how Rob would explain it. It's really going, right? It's going up, down really quick, or up really fast, or down really fast, just high volatility. And then you get this inside bar stuck in the range. He would say it's kind of like a spinning top where you spin it and it's spinning around really fast. But when you look at it, it doesn't look like it's moving, right? But then you touch it and it goes bouncing off the walls, right? So the same thing is true with inside bars. And just for example, you see in the semis here, they're puking inside bar. And then notice when this breaks, it was a gap down, but it inside down, notice 212 reversal, puke, right? They really hit onto them. So that's an example of that. If we go to Oklo, this is an even better example of what we're specifically looking for. You can see it's like they're really gunning, right? It goes 9 to 16 in 3 days. And then the inside bar, right? And then the inside bar up, right up in here above 1667. And you can see that trades 2067. So that moves $4 in a day on a stock that's less than 20 bucks. Like that's really good, right? So this is what we're looking for. And you can see the same thing occurred up in here. So they go back in. Inside bar breaks up, doesn't go instantly, right? But it breaks up. So this is 212 reversal going higher. When this breaks, 1947. Unless it breaks back down, 2 to the downside, it's still good. You can see they open, go 2 up again. It's still going. And then boom, blast off. Goes 19 to 25.40 just about. So you can see how that works. And then there was another one, except it gaps and then takes it down the other way. So hopefully that's making sense, right? Inside bars during high volatility is ideal. If we go to some examples here, you're going to see the 212 reversal on the Dow Jones weekly, right? Up, inside, back down. That's a reversal, something we look for. You see ABV on the weekly, really gunning, then inside week. And this was taken, I want to say it was during the week. So it actually didn't play out fully in this case. If we go to Dow Jones on the monthly, you'll see the 2 down, 1, and then 2 to the upside, right? And this is an example of a measured move, which we have not covered yet, but I can quickly do that here. So when it comes to measured move, and I don't have a picture of it in here, what a measured move is, it's really important. When you're playing inside bars, a measured move is where you get a big move followed by a brief pause inside bar, followed by an equal sized move above that inside bar's highs. So the importance of this is the 50% of this bar's range must not be breached for high probability measured moves. So we need to see that above the midpoint of this big bar here closing up in here, because what it tells us is there's brief profit taking and it's like a small pause and then they go again. So it's like they buy 10 million shares and then they come in here. Some people are taking profit, then they're holding their shares because it's not coming back down. And then they go and buy, another 10 million shares and it goes the same amount. So that's what that's telling us when that condition is true. And this can go up or down. And this is important because this is how we're going to time with the inside bars where the really big move is going to occur. Because again, during high volatility, you get an inside bar and then it goes blasting off and bouncing off the walls, kind of like the top example. The next thing we can talk about is the 2-2. So this is not an actionable signal, but it is a reversal. The difference is an actionable signal tells us of specific conditions. So an inside bar is an equilibrium and it's a specific condition because we know, hey, like they agree on prices at this point. So the same way, like what price will do is it'll move and then they're going to agree on prices and then either keep going or reverse. So the momentum is like they move, they agree on prices higher than previously, and then they go again. Right. So the inside bars will always be a move and then an inside bar, and then it either reverses or it keeps going. And that's just a universal truth of price. It's how it works because price is constantly going through a period of expansion and then a period of contraction and then expansion and then contraction. So the inside bar is a universal truth of how it works. The 2-2 reversal is a reversal, yes, but it's not an actionable signal in the same sense because all we're doing is we're seeing a reversal, right? Which is still a good thing. So 2 up, 2 down. When we do this, we'd like to hit it below this, and our stop would go at the high of that 2-2 reversal bar here, the bar that is open and trading. We ideally don't want to put it against this high. Some people have different risk tolerances, but against this high is what we're looking for. And then vice versa on the downside, 2-2 back up. We want to put our stop against this low, and then we want to see it go to magnitude, which is the other side of this bar prior to the 2-2 reversal. And what's important with these, and I just realized I didn't talk about the inside bar stops. I'll get there. We'll go back to it. But what's important to these is they cause an outside bar. So when you see a 2 up in red, it's attempting to go outside bar, it just runs out of time. So you get a 2-2 reversal, and then you can see compound 3. You make a new high and a new low. This is how we gauge magnitude. And it's why it's important to understand the software is only going to show you so many things. You have to use your brain sometimes, because when we see this 2-2 reversal, that's a scenario 3. That's an outside bar. Has to be. Once that magnitude's hit, 1 penny above, this is 3. So on a higher time frame, it looks something like this, right? And we use that because we know when a 3 occurs, it can get a lot bigger, or they'll trade back through it. And before we get on to here, actually, we'll do this and then we'll quickly go back to the inside bar. But for example, SPY on the weekly, the 2-2 reversal, right? This was not red, but they still reversed. So where's it going? Down there, right? And then these 3 bars go an outside bar of this. And then this week comes in, goes down again, and now it's a 3-2 to the downside. They're going and expanding the range. You can see the big move. The SPY yearly, this is in 2009, after the '08 crisis, the 2 down in green, 2-2 reversal, where's it going? Up there. 2, 2, 2. These 3 bars, or 4 bars, go outside of this bar, and then this is now 3-2 expansion. Boom, and they go off flying to new all-time highs. So hopefully this is making sense. Now, if we quickly go back to the inside bars, when you have just an inside bar, the stop is the high of the bar you enter on for a bearish signal. It's also the low of the bar you enter on for a bullish signal. When you are trading momentum, the stop is very different. And if we go back here on Oclo. So when we have momentum, in this case, it's not perfect momentum, but this is the 2-on-2 continuation, which is technically momentum. It's just continuing the direction. We would like a stop, ideally, a few pennies below where we get in, because it really should just go. Because what we're identifying is when this inside bar occurs, every time frame is green up to the yearly, from the weekly all the way to the year, and down to the day in 60. So when that occurs, every participant's buying and taking the offer. The next thing is this equilibrium tells us, well, first of all, there's profit taking or poorly timed short positions yesterday. So when it takes this out, all those shorts go underwater. So yes, you can widen the stop up a little bit, but we really don't need a risk low a day in this example, the low of the bar. We want to go even tighter than that. Some people will risk like 10 cents. Some will go the spread plus 1 penny. Depends on the trader, but we want to go much tighter on that specifically with momentum. And let me clarify even more so. Specifically when you have a hammer, which we're going to talk about in a second here. I think it's on the other PDF. Specifically when you have this hammer is when we want to do that. If it is like, let me see in here. Let me get back. I'm not sure if it's on this PDF or not. We'll see. Yeah. So specifically when you have this hammer paired with the inside bar or the 2-2 reversal is when we want to have that much tighter stop. With momentum, we simply just want to make sure that our stop is not the low of that bar if it is a hammer or a shooter. And I kind of got off track there when I was talking. I just realized, but when you have this hammer or shooter, you want to have that stop like the open of this bar, for example, when this hammer occurs. And all a hammer is this big lower wick and this small body up at the highs. And we're going to say it's about 33% or closing in the top 33% of that range. So you can see it looks like a hammer, like you'd grab, and then the shooter is just inverse of that, right? So with these, we want very tight stops, and it allows us to do that. If we go back in here, we can compare that. You see the 2-2 reversal. That is not a hammer or shooter, right? So we can go wider stop on that because we have less expectation it'll go instantly. Many times they will, but we will want to have a slightly wider stop there against the high or the low. So that is cleared up, hopefully. And we're going to talk a little more about hammers and shooters towards the end of this as well. Now, the next thing is a rev strat. So when you learn the inside bar, the other thing is, since an inside bar is in equilibrium, if it comes back into that, it's going to go back, test the other side. Because you think of it kind of like tug of war, where when you get this inside bar, for example, here, so they sold it and now they agree on prices, right? So buyers and sellers, they shake hands. They're like, okay, we're good. Then the next day opens. You can see, for example, they go inside continuation. They make the new low, which is the magnitude of a continuation here. Then you can see they start coming back. So once they come back into this inside bars range, then you understand, well, the inside bar, they agreed on prices. The sellers attempted to sell it lower, right? So people hit the bid in here. They had to, because it went in equilibrium, then broke lower. And equilibrium just means they agree on prices. Stillness, it's going sideways. So when we go reversal back through that, this is a 2-2 reversal, and it reclaims the low of this one, we know that these sellers in here were too weak, right? It's countered by more aggressive buying in the other direction. And this is one of the very high probability setups we're looking for, because we have an aggressive seller that gets countered by a more aggressive buyer in this scenario. And it goes up, and the magnitude is always the bar prior to the inside bar. So we call this the mother bar here. You see mother bar, the one forms, so we can call it the mother bar. Then they make the low and then the new high. And you'll notice these two bars become a compound 3 to these two bars, new high and new low compared to this high and this low. And then vice versa on the downside. You see inside bar pokes up, reclaims the highs here. That's your first hint that's failing. And then it flips red. And you can see we have a little bit of a shooter. And then they go 2-2 reversal. Boom. These two bars go outside bar of these two bars. And we can also have what we call a 1-bar rev strat. So 1-bar rev strat is the 1-3. So you get the 1, they make the low, change the continuity, and reclaim that 1 all at the same time. And that gives you a 1-3, the same magnitude. Notice lower low and higher high to these two bars, the mother bar and the inside bar. And then vice versa in here. And when you're looking at a 1-3, technically, we look to enter once it's above this low, but it is in force, or it is occurring. That rejection of the lows is going and reversing prices above the high of the 1. So although this is what we're looking for, where it's marked in trigger, above this 1, that's when it is in force, and we know it's going up there for sure. As long as it's above that 1 in this case, and vice versa on the downside. If it's below the 1, we know it's trying to go to the magnitude. And what Rob would say, to last thing here, is it telegraphs it's going to occur. Because if you have a 1 and then a 2 down that's green back towards the 1, you know it's trying to go 3 and take this out, which tells you that's potentially going way up there. So we can scan for this on the monthly, the quarterly, yearly, the weekly, the daily, the 60. We can look for that. And then vice versa. When this is 2 up in red, we know it's potentially 3 to take this out. Therefore, it's telegraphing the move. So we can go in there on a lower time frame and use actionable signals like an inside bar or a 2-2 reversal or the hammers and shooters to cause that to happen, to cause the 3. And then we can also have the 1-3-2, which is a 1-bar rev strat turned into a 2-bar rev strat. So you can see in this case, it goes up, red, reclaims the 1, it's telegraphing the potential 3. It goes 3 and takes out the low of the mother bar. Then it reclaims and goes 3 again. So they make the high and the low. Then they come back, attempting to make the high again. And then you'll see it forms a hammer. This is the ideal scenario. A 1 followed by a 3 that is a hammer. And then the 3-2, this is a reversal where you get a hammer plus the 2-bar rev strat. And then they go to magnitude. And these are the most powerful ones because they bought it up, sold it down, bought it up again, and then kept going. And vice versa on the downside. The 1, they sold it down, bought it up, sold it down again, and then kept going. And it's a very, very aggressive pattern. So you'll see some examples of the rev strat. The 1-1-2-2 in Starbucks right in here on the weekly, and then off to the races they go for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks in a row. If we go to Cat Weekly, the 1, 2, 2 right below that, and puke. They got killed. You go NVO Weekly. Here's the 2-bar rev strat. The 1. Then you can see they poke down and hammer on the week here. And then 3-2, that's the 2-bar rev strat. And then 2-2-2. Then you can see we get an inside bar hammer and they keep going. Adobe. This is an example of the 1-3. They poke up, go red. That tells you, hey, it's potential outside day, right? Then once it takes the lows of this one, it has reversed the equilibrium. We know it's going to take that out, and it does. It takes out the high and the low of the mother bar, something we look for. We traded that one on the stream. If you go back to April 4th's stat trading stream, you'll see that. So that is the rev strats. And it's important to understand it's whenever an equilibrium or an inside bar gets countered by a hammer, a shooter, or a reversal. Very important. And to quickly go over hammers and shooters, they are actionable signals that tell us of potentially trapped longs or shorts. So they're not a universal truth like the 1s, 2s, and 3s, time frame continuity, or the other types of reversals like a 2-2 or a 1-2-2 rev strat, etc. Because we can't know for certain if there are shorts or longs trapped. So it's something we look for because there's potentially trapped shorts or longs, but it's not a provable stance. We can't prove that there is trapped longs or shorts. And these candlestick formations are used in addition to any signals we've talked about. So the 2-2 reversal, the rev strat, the inside bar. We love the hammers and shooters because they allow for tighter stops and you get a higher probability or likelihood price is going to move. And we already kind of talked about this, but you can see this is the 2-2 reversal paired with the hammer actionable signal, and it should just go. And again, you want a tight stop on this stuff like the open of that bar or even just a couple pennies. Same thing in here. The shooter, 2-2 reversal, a tight stop or a couple pennies, depending on your risk tolerance. We can also have what we call momentum hammers and shooters, which we don't have all the examples here, but we will add them in. So momentum is simply a continuation. So when we say momentum, we mean it is confirming what has already occurred. So in this case, you'll see 2 down, momentum shooter. Okay, what does that tell us? Well, potentially there's trapped longs in here, and we already know it's going down. So the sellers are definitely in control. And we want to pair this with higher time frame continuity and magnitudes. So when this breaks, we know it's like these guys who potentially bought in here, they're screwed. And then we get huge moves normally when this is the correct scenario. You cannot trade every momentum shooter or momentum hammer. You'll get killed doing that. You have to pair it with higher time frame magnitudes and continuity, which I'll show you some examples specifically from today. We talked about in the nightly vid last night. And then you'll see an example of what we call the measured move. And this is also a form of a measured move with the 2 down continuation. But ideally, we want to see that 2, the 1 with the hammer. That's ideal. And then the 2 again in the same, you can see the same distance. We measure this out and then project it, expecting the same size move. And there's a few examples here. You can see the momentum hammer here. This is a 2 up on GPS, followed by another 2, 2, 2, another hammer here, and then 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, right? Tesla on the weekly, that's a shooter, right? There's your 2-2 reversal paired with a shooter. Sarah traded this on April 15th. You'll find that in the Discord, and I imagine on the YouTube stream, Sarah did on Monday when that occurred. Affirm, here's your momentum measured move. 2, 1, hammer, 2, boom, all the way up they go. And when you pair this with continuity correctly, it will go actually much further than the measured move more often than not. So these are really powerful signals. SPY, this was during COVID. The 2, you can see there's a little bit of a shooter, 2 down. Momentum shooter right here tells you what, next week's going to have some problems likely. 2, 2, and they just got murdered in there, right? So hopefully that makes sense. The next thing I want to talk about is what we call hammer counter shooter or shooter counter hammer, which is important, but we forgot to put this in the course here. So we're going to kind of freehand it. So what it is when you get a hammer followed by a shooter or a shooter countered by a hammer or followed by a hammer. So for example, if we go to Microsoft, this is on Turnaround Tuesday, you'll see this. We had it in the nightly vid. It goes inside bar shooter, right? Momentum. So momentum, again, less likely to create winning positions when it's not paired with a bigger magnitude. In this case, it tried, right? Made the lows, but now it turns rev strat. Cool. We want to ideally pair the rev strat with the hammer here, or even better, the hammer that counters a shooter, because it's a very aggressive rejection of this equilibrium when that occurs. So this is hammer that counters shooter. You would enter above the high of this 410.43. And if we're a swing trader, we can go a little wider on here, but we'd prefer when we're taking these that they just go instantly. And in this case, Microsoft, you will see if we drop it down to the 15 minute, you will notice what we mean when we say go instantly. It breaks, it does come back, but it does not touch where we got in. That is what we mean. It should not come back to where we got in, and then up and off away they go. You can see from 410 to 426. So that's momentum, hammer, counter, shooter. And the reason we say the hammer, counter, shooter, although it's a reversal, we say it's momentum, is because it's an aggressive change in direction or an aggressive reconfirmation of direction. So if we go back to here, you can see, for example, in here, On GPS on the daily, you'll see the shooter countered by hammer. So notice this, it opens, instantly breaks, which is what we expect, takes the high out, and our stop is a spread plus a penny, or we could use the low of this since it's really tight. And then we're in, right? Risking pretty much nothing, and then boom, 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 right? So it's really aggressive, and we say it's momentum not only because it's really aggressive, but because the stops are based on what type of setup it is. So when you have this, really tight stops. If it's just an inside bar continuation, you're going to have a slightly wider stop. If it's just a 2-2 reversal, you're going to have a wider stop, right? So it also tells us our stop loss and our amount of risk. If we then go to something like crowd, for example, you're going to see where this is not momentum in the same sense, but you'll see the 1, the 2 down. I wouldn't call this a hammer. I'd call it a doji, but you can see the 2 back up, right? So the 1, 2, 2, although it's not hammer counter shooter, which is like perfect, or it's not even hammer, it can still work, which is why we don't say it's necessary. We say it's preferred, which is a very important thing. The best signals will be hammers and shooters with what we already know to be true. If we go to coin, you will see we can also just have counter hammer, which is still considered momentum in the same sense, but we don't have or actually counter shooter here. So the inside bar shooter countered by a 2-2 reversal, which is still momentum in the same sense. It's just not a hammer here, right? So we're countering a shooter. That's momentum, which means we can buy that and it should just go 186.92. And then you'll see they follow it up by continuing. We can also show another example of momentum here. So you'll see the 2-1-2 continuation, which is momentum. It's continuing, but since this is just 2-1-2 continuation, no hammer, nothing, our stop would be the low of the bar that triggers that, 228.13. Because there's no hammer or anything, so it's not going to go instantly. It might take a little bit, might grind a little bit, but we expect it should just go, right? So we're not going to risk the low of the 1. We're not going to risk low a day. It's the low of that bar that triggers it. And if it stops you out and re-breaks, we can get back in. So when this is occurring, why can we take this? Because first of all, you'll see broadening formation expansion above the daily broadening formation here. It's the first hint. On the week, when that breaks, you will notice it is not a 1-3-2 rev strat, but it is a 3 countered by another 3. And what happens is when you exit a broadening formation, now it's on, right? Until that reversal occurs on like a daily time frame, this is getting bigger above 223.89 or 223.9. Broadening formation's expanding. So when we say we like to add 2 positions, the goal is this: 2-2 reversal from the bottom of the range. It goes to the top and then it keeps going. And we look to add on that 30 signal, for example. And then you can see the day is not reversed. So we're still good. So hopefully you can see how that works. And you'll notice if we go in here, the signals will cause the movement. The 2-2 reversal, the shooter, boom, momentum shooter. That's a continuation. Momentum shooter takes the bottom of the range, bottom of the broadening formation. And then the rev strat, counter shooter. And that takes the top of the range, right? The problem most people will run into is this. If you're trading in here, you are going to get chopped up because you're stuck inside the previous range. We want to see the new high and then our signals, the new low and then our signals. Do not diddle in the middle, as they say, because we know when we're failing one side of the range, it's going to the other. We also know if it's staying outside of the range, it's still going higher or still going lower. What we do not know is, well, if we're inside the range, what do we know? It's like it's going nowhere. So ignore the things that are just chopping around inside the range. I want to show you some more momentum hammer setups. You go to cost. You'll see the outside bar hammer. That is an actionable signal above 899.9. And it should pretty much just go instantly, right? We just want that to go. Does not mean it can't re-break, but we prefer it just goes right away. If we go to the week, you will see we had a 2 down, 2 up reversal on the week. So we had a reversal that is being confirmed by this hammer, which is important. If we go to the month, you'll see it is a 2 down, 2 up, I believe. Yeah, a 2 down, 2 up reversal on the month. So we have all the time frames in our favor, full time frame continuity plus the hammer. And you'll notice, are we in the middle of the range? Yes, we are. But notice we made the low of the range. Hammer going up. Hammer, where is it still going? To the top of the range. Right. So even if we just draw our broadening formation, you can see it makes the highs, it reverses, it's all the way up in here. We can draw that out. We know it's trying to go up into that when this hammer is forming. So the signal causes it to move. And you will see again, I'm just trying to solidify the signals. So you can see the hammer in here does not work, gets stuck inside the range. Inside bar, stuck inside the range. Multiple bars inside to this, stuck inside the range. Then they poke up, shooter, 2-2 reversal, 2-1-2, or actually double inside, down, then hammer, which you can see they go 3, but then we have another hammer, and then 3-2, and then 3 hammer 2, and you'll see how it's calling the top, it's calling the bottom. It tells you to buy in here, right? So our signals will cause the movement, super important. And then intraday, you'll see, for example here, it's not quite a hammer, but you'll notice the 3, that goes continuation, and then you'll see the shooter getting countered by 2-2 reversal. And then we will see just straight up 2-2 reversal in here. And then the inside bar 3-1-2 reversal at high day, which brings it in. So you can see how that works. If we drop it down to a 5-minute, you will see in here, you have the hammer on the 5-minute that confirms the daily 3-2 hammer above this 900.03, which was what we pointed out on the morning stream, because we stopped some guys out and we're going the other way. The inside bar momentum measured move above this 903.09. Then you'll see another inside bar up and then inside down. That trend was over. Then they stopped some guys out. Rev strat back up, and then inside bar, 1 bar rev strat back up, right? And then to the highs. So you can see how that's working. And then on the smaller time frames, shooter down, slight doji down, shooter 2-2 down, slight hammer, right? Not the best one, but hammer 2-2 back up, and then they're going up, right? And then the shooter counter hammer, right? Puke, inside bar hammer back up. Inside bar shooter, so countering an inside bar with a shooter, that's a rev strat we like to know about, puke, right? So do you see how this works? And this is why it's so important to understand. It's going to tell you everything you need to know once you're on the right stuff. And then where are the ones that start failing? Okay, rev strat, and then hammer, this is inside bar up, right? And then puke, inside bar up, and then finally gets nice one, then puke, then you can see they go down, they go up, and they're getting chopped up in here. Right. So the important thing to understand is when you are inside a previous range, you're going to get killed. And how do you know that? Well, notice how this looks. New highs, shooter, and retest them, and then puke. New lows, hammer, and they start reclaiming it. And then all of a sudden, they can't make the new highs again. So they get stuck. High, low, stuck inside. And you can see slight higher high, shooter, back down, then slight lower low. So you see how this range was much bigger back here, and then in here it gets very small. This is where you're going to get killed. We need to stick to the stuff that's really moving. If we go to Shopify, you will see this. The momentum hammer day above 82.12, confirming a 2-2 week that has a magnitude to take out 83.26 for its compound 3. It's also a slight hammer on the week. You'll notice on the month, it is shooter, but we're countering that, right? It's not a 2 going 3 or a 2-2 reversal, but it is getting countered by the weekly signal. So that's a good thing, right? So when we go in here, since that's momentum hammer day with full time frame continuity, it should just go. You can see it takes 82.12 right at the open and never looks back. If we go in, you'll see on the 5-minute this morning, they go up. Then the inside or the outside bar, 3, inside bar 1, 2 to the upside, and your stop goes here, 83.04. 2-2-2-2 shooter to get your first partial if you're going to, or ideally we hold on to it because the day is in force, the week is in force, and the month is full time from continuity up. Then you'll see they go 3-2 reversal, inside bar continuation, your stop goes here, then up they go, followed by a 2-2 reversal. You see it's a slight hammer, right? Not what we're looking for. And then up, inside bar rev strat, that's a 3, followed by the outside bar hammer back up, followed by another hammer back up. And then they grind it up all in the morning here. And then you can see the inside bar back down, I believe. It might be a 2. But hopefully you're seeing how this is playing out. And then there's no hammers or shooters here. A slight hammer, which fails, so be it, right? Down in here, the 1-3-2 reversal, which is a 2-bar rev strat, just no actionable signal with the hammer or shooter. Goes to the highs. This hammer fails in here. And you can see at this point, see how this range is getting really small in here? This is where you're going to have a lot worse time. And if we're looking at this, you'll notice how it gets really small up in here at high day. And this is what you got to try and stay out of. When things are really moving and they have magnitude, we can go after that stuff. But once you're back into the highs, we want to see the bigger triangle out. So when you see a broadening formation begin, which maybe we talk about in a future video, but when you see one begin, what you need to do is let it grow, right? It's like if this broadening formation is only 60 cents, don't trade it. Go find the one that's $5. If we go to, let's see, one more example from today now. You can see now the momentum hammer above this 99707, right? When that occurs, how much continuity did it have? Well, the week was a 312 and 4, so we're confirming the inside week. That's good. The month was bright green, full time frame continuity up. The quarter is continuing. Notice this hammer quarter still good, right? So they're still confirming that. And then the year, this is just 2-2 reversal and still going. So you got every participation group buying, which is a good thing. Then you'll see in the morning, they break it and they're off to the races immediately. The only hammer in here you'll see is right here and then right here, and they grind it back up. Then you'll notice they stop some guys out, lower lows, hammer, hammer, and then up they go. And there's some momentum hammers, and this is a pretty illiquid name, but I'm just showing you how that is playing out, right? Super, super cool. So hopefully this is making sense. If we go to, let's see. If you have any questions, by the way, put them in. If they're in premium stage, I'm not going to see it. Put them in premium chat. All right. So I've covered most of what I want to cover here. The next thing, I guess we can talk about the 3-1-2. I guess we can talk about, we'll give you the crash course on broadening formations. How about that? Because these go together with the continuity. So when you find a signal that forms, so like if you're scanning at night, that is when you draw the broadening formation. That's what allows you to gauge, is the range getting bigger? Are we trading back through it? How big is the range, right? So for example, when this inside bar forms, that's actionable signal, right? So when we draw the broadening formation out, we go right to left. So we can see it goes new low, inside bar. So we draw right to left, see new lows to these lows back here. Then the higher high to this. So they poke up, shooter, counter hammer, back down, inside bar, back up. Where's the broadening formation going? Up to here. And then you can see in this case, we can redraw it right to left if we'd like. They would go and gap up outside the broadening formation momentum hammer. Now we are in broadening formation expansion until it starts reversing to make the highs of the new broadening formation. So this momentum hammer can have a high expected return if that works, because we are range expansion. Now, when we are back through a previous range, that is ideal since we have people to stop out. So when we go to Shopify, which was on the nightly vid, you can see, so when this rev strat occurred down in here, we would draw right to left. You can see the lower lows that occurred on the daily chart here. The higher highs, even if they're slight higher like this, to here. So this rev strat calls the bottom. Rip, right? Then, momentum hammer, where is this going? Here, to the penny, right? So you can see how that works. And if you're not drawing the broadening lines, all you have to understand is this is the other side of that range. You'll see it makes a slight lower low, reclaims the lows with the rev strat, back up. Momentum hammer confirms that, back up, and they take this out. The broadening formation is where you can get more precise with what you're looking for, but it's not necessary. If we go to Costco, you can already see the same thing. So we already mentioned this, but the hammer occurs down in here. Even if you're late to this, and this is super important, even if you're late to this, it's actually almost better. You don't have to nail the low, because if you miss this, once it's jamming up into the highs in here, you already know where it's going, right? So a misconception is you have to hit the low every time or hit the high every time. Not true, because you have more evidence once it's up here that it's going to take that out than you did at the lows here. So when it's up in here, it's pretty much definitive, like, yep, we're going back through all these guys, right? And you got this broadening formation on the day. Tomorrow, it's got to get out of that, or it's going to come inside bar and come back in a little bit. So hopefully that's making sense. If we go to coin, just show you the example, because this try, we had this drawn out. You'll see they go 2-2 on a Tuesday. And when that occurs, it is slight lower low to this. I like drawing it to make it look more like broadening formation, but this would be the objective method of doing so. So the slight lower low, the rev strat, which calls the lows, counter hammer. And then where is it going? It is going up there. When it gaps here, you can just buy it because you know it's going to take that high out, which is where that 30-minute comes in, right? And then if it's above that, you can see into expansion, and it's still good as it's still 2 up. So this range is getting much, much bigger. That's what we're looking for. If we go to OKLO, so it's not textbook like exactly what we're looking for in here, but you'll see this. So you get the 3. We have this slight hammer, you could say, but potential 2-2 reversal. They reverse it. So now at that point, we can start drawing this out, right? And then we could say, well, any signals that start occurring over here, we can look for the other side of this 3 because that is broadening formation. And then this is the highs of that broadening formation. If we drop it to a 60 chart, you may see this a little bit clearer. So you can see high, new low. Notice the hammer marks the low, right? And then there's some chop shop in here, trading stuck inside the previous range, which starts a new series. So you'll see the hammer or the shooter in here forms after this hammer. Then another hammer, counter shooter, right? So when that's occurring, you're drawing right to left. Here it is. So you got to get out of this range to cause the bigger range to happen. So you see they go hammer in here. They're trying to make the highs. They go up, hammer, which did not break. Awesome. Inside bar rev strats, right? 2 go 3 right in here above 21.8. So when you want to know about it, is considered in force, or the reversals occurring above 22.02. You see it gets out of the range. Then it continues up, 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 inside 60. That's a measured move. Rally, sideways, measured move, up again, right? Then they close out as a shooter going into tomorrow. So hopefully this is making sense. And so therefore, when you find the signals, you're going to measure the range once you find the signal. So if we go to like Riot, it's one of my favorite ones here in the Bitcoiners, did the same thing as coin, right? So you can see the daily try up in here. So right to left, you can see the shooter marks the high, puke, inside shooter, puke, countered by a slight hammer, not quite, but 2-2 rev strat, counter shooter, rally. Causes a 3-3 week broadening formation. Now, why were we looking at this? Well, look at the monthly. It should be glaringly obvious at this point, right? So you're not going to see the higher highs in this per se, but you'll see shooter, right? Back down. And when that shooter forms, you can start drawing it like this. And they make the lows and then hammer, right? So we draw right to left. This is your straight up, like your current broadening formation. New high, new low, hammer. Where's it going? Up there, right? Until that 2-2 gets reversed against, it is still going there. So as that's playing out, we are going to look for the triangle layout to stop people out and then keep going, which is going to look like the puke, the inside bar, back up. The puke, the slight doji / hammer, back up. The momentum, which turns into 1 bar rev strat, back up. You see inside bar, we'll say it's a 2 down, and then there's a 3, 1, 2 up. You see 2 up, 2 down, 2 back up, then some shooters, and now they really stop them out. This is what we're looking for. And then you get the rev strat, and then that confirms the much bigger broadening formation up to there, right? So what you'll notice is the easiest buys, when things are really going, you can go after this stuff in here. The slight lower low on the day and then back up, slight lower lows back up, right? But the easiest one is when you'll see this broadening formation gets bigger, where it goes all the way down, and now you have this really big range where people are short and they're wrong to come back through. That's the easiest trade, because what's happening is it's going up, right? And then it's grinding as it's going into new highs here. And then they stop some guys out and then go again. Stop some guys out, try and rally it back up. Stop some guys out, try and rally it back up. Stop a lot of people out, and then a lot of people have to buy it back up, right? So the bigger that range is, the better. Super important. If we go to CLSK, you can see how that works, for example, right? So notice this hammer occurs, and you'll see this daily range is very small. New high, new low, hammer, right? It tries, fails, 2-2 back down, fails, 2-2 back up, hits its target, then poke up, and then momentum shooter. Where's this going? Well, notice the range, how it just got bigger. Now it's going to be easier to trade. Momentum shooter, it's going down there. Puke, right? And then they get outside of it, stay out. And then when this goes 2-2 reversal, we can start drawing right to left again, like this. Because it expands, gets bigger. Once it reverses, it's now, boom. This is now the big range. And then when they go back through it, much, much bigger on the upside. So when we go to like SPY, why is it so hard to trade up at all-time highs? Because you are not back through previous range. You can see it's like puke, stop a lot of people out, and then rev strat in here. This is a 2-day inside bar. You're gonna have to use your brain, right? You can see 2 days down, 2 days inside, then poke down. That's a 1-bar rev strat. Then continue with this big outside bar hammer type setup. And then all the way to the highs and then grind. Right? It's like, why do they grind up here? Well, look at how big your range was when you came back through with this rev strat here. This is a really nice big range, right? They get out of it, and then they're going to start that triangle over. You can see they poke up. Then they poke down, which we actually did not quit the quite lower low to that, but it looks like this. Then you can see they poke down, and it's still, you know, a little bit smaller, but then two reversal, the momentum measured move, and then up they go, right? And this is just, you could draw it at any point in here from this to this. Well, then it goes 2-2 here, and now we can redraw right to left. And you'll see again, they start over. Inside bar, poke up, poke down, another inside bar, we redraw right to left. They attempt to poke up, and then they get stuck inside. Stuck, and then puke into the lows. And then again, shooter, counter by hammer. Where's it going? Look at how big this range is, right? Boom, election. Then you had the momentum hammer today to expect a rally in the morning, which it did. So hopefully that makes sense. When you see the signal occur, when you see a reversal occur, that's when you draw, and that's what is going to allow you to gauge the magnitude. And then the continuity just simply tells you how much evidence do you have. Do you got a month to do that? Do you got a week to do that? Do you have a day to do that? A quarter, a year, etc. So now we can take any questions you guys want, but that is all I wanted to cover today. And I apologize I didn't have my lights on here this morning, but hopefully you guys can forgive me for that. I'll give you guys a few minutes to get in here and ask questions. If you genuinely have none, then I guess I did my job. Makes sense. Cool. All right. Can I quiz you? Can I quiz any of you guys? All right. So I'm going to give you 3 options. Ready? So if you have an inside bar continuation, 2, 1, 2 up. So 2 up, 1, 2 up. It's not hammer. It's not momentum. Does the stop go at the daily open? Does it go at the low of the bar? Or does it go the spread plus a penny? Okay, so it is a 2, 1, 2 continuation. If we go to, for example, SPY here. It's not momentum, right? Because it hit the 50% of this bar, so it's not momentum measured move. It's just continuation. There's no hammer or anything. Does your stop go at the low of this bar, the open of this bar, or the spread plus a penny? All right, we got one person saying the low of the bar. We'll let everyone else get a chance. All right, so the correct answer is low of the bar because there is no hammer. It is not a measured move or momentum in the same sense. It's continuation, momentum in that sense, right? But it is just inside bar. There's no hammer, so we can't have the tighter stop. And it is not momentum in the sense that you get this nice big measured move, momentum measured move. So we want the low of that bar for the continuation. So like if we go to coin, another example of that. Right here. We want the low of that bar when that breaks. So maybe I need to be more specific. So when we are going tight stop, we need the hammer or shooter pretty much every time. The only time we're not gonna need that is if we are going to be trading a 1-bar rev strat, a 1-3. we can go really tight stop because we have the 3 that's breaking it. I don't know if I have an example of that. So like, for example, it's not one we'd be taking today, but if this is what it looks like, so hammer pokes up, this is technically right below this 60 or below this open here. We want it to go 3, yes. But if we are taking the break of this for the 1 bar rev strat to take the low of this mother bar, if we're taking the low of this, it's spread plus a penny. It's the only time that you're going to have the really tight stop. Because this is already a 3, it must just keep going. There's no waiting. But with hammers and shooters, that's when we get that nice tight spread. If it's just straight up continuation, like in here, 2 1 1 2 continuation, the low of the bar we enter on here. So if you think of it this way, if it's hammer or shooter, you get the tight stop. If it's not, you have the wider stop. Simple rule. The only exception is the 1 bar rev strat hitting it when it goes 3. Which are, I don't know if I have any examples of that. Almost 1 bar rev strat, maybe on the 60-minute here. Yeah, so for example, Adobe. 60 inside gap up. It's red, so we can go in there on the 5, 3, 1 minute chart to cause the 3, which is a more ideal scenario. But if we're hitting this here below 503.21, we want the spread plus a few pennies because we're selling the bottom of a 3, which is risky business, but we know that could go a lot further. So in here, right, when the 1 minute happens, you see it does break, stop you out, and then break again, you're good, right? And the reason is because if you sell the bottom of a 3 and it starts failing, you will get wrecked. It's going back to high day if that fails, right, to 510. So there's no reason to put your stop $5 above it or $1 above it. No reason at all. It's either it's below that and that's bearish, or it's above it and it is bullish. So it's the only time that's not going to be the case. Does that make sense? All right, good. The next thing is hammer counter shooter a momentum setup or is it a reversal setup? Which actually may not be the best question. Is it a momentum setup or not? Yeah, both. There we go. Good. Context. Yep. So, next question. Are you going to go and take every single inside bar break? Yes or no? No. Good. Because that's not how it works. All right. In what context is the inside bar the highest probability? During high, low, or medium volatility? High. There we go. Good, good, good. Okay. And a simple way to understand that is just, is there long red and green bars when you're playing this stuff? If not, then you do not have high or low volatility. So for example, if we go to, let me link this chart up in here. So I have a list just full of stocks that move. So if we look at A and F today, is this an inside bar during high volatility? Yes or no? Yes. All right. Correct. Right. see if we got any other ones in here. Here's another example, hymns. You can see extremely volatile plus the inside bar, and it's a shooter, right? So that could be problems tomorrow. And you should start seeing, it's like we draw it, once that inside bar forms, boom, draw, draw, draw. Potentially that could be problems tomorrow if things start coming back in. All right, OPCH. Is that an inside bar during high or low volatility? Maybe it's a trick question. Low volatility. Yeah. And best way to see this is look at the weekly. All right. So they have been puking, right? But this week, we're end of Wednesday's trading or Thursday's trading, right? So we're going into Friday tomorrow. Hasn't really done much. So continuity is going to help you with picking that stuff out. You see this month or last month, notice what caused this puke. The 2-2 shooter rev strat reversal. Bang. High volatility, high volatility, high volatility, and then doji, right? Which means this puke is still good, but they're not really doing much this month. Now, what we can also say is, could this 2-1-2 reversal cause the month to get really red? It could, right? But you have to know that, because if this fails and starts rev stratting tomorrow when you try and take it short, you can't stay in it. You don't got a lot of high evidence for that to work. It's more likely to do that with the doji here. So what is a high probability inside bar? It is going to be when you are at, ideally we want back to previous range. So top or bottom of the range, that's when we are looking for them. Because you're looking for 2-1-2 reversals. That's ideal scenario. And then if you're trading momentum, you want long red and green bars plus the inside bar. And that will be useful when you understand continuity. So if we look at, I don't know if we have any inside weak signals in force here. Let's see. So TNDM didn't really get going that much this week, but you can see when that inside bar forms, it's at the bottom of the range. That's what we like to see. Now, let's say, for example, this goes up in here, and then we get an inside day or something in here. And we got this long green week going back through this range, essentially 47. That'd be high probability for that to work, because you'd have long green bars back through previous range plus that inside day. And you see, like, for example, end phase. So you can see in this example, puke. Inside bar, nice puke, right, to the downside. Then they firm up. Inside bar, back through previous range, rip, right? Countered by a shooter in here. And you'll see inside bar, puke, then inside bar, outside bar rev strat, then inside bar again, which does not get going. And then they puke a little bit more, just with some 3-2 reversals in here. And then 2-1-2 reversal here, puke. All right, then there's no inside bars or anything, and then gap down. Now in this case, there's the inside bar up, which did make the new highs and came back in, then back up. You'll see 2-1 down at the lows here. And this is occurring with the weekly rev strat that's occurring. If we go to the month, notice your inside month. So this is during low volatility when this formed, but it took out all the lows of the broadening formation. So it goes inside, then boom, takes out all the lows. These guys have some problems. We did not get to recover this month. So drop it back up to the weekly here. Bring it back up. So you can see that inside bar forms. You can draw this tryout. Now this triangle is expanding still. And that's some problems. That inside day might really send them home. If you go to the year, you're taking last year's lows. So there have been some problems. Trying to see if we have any inside week signals this week. The THC hasn't really gone super crazy yet. Looks like they might have had something going on today, but you'll see this. 2-1 on the week, right? Long red and green bars. So 2-1, 2 reversal above that. And your weekly stop is down here. So a little more risk for the swingers. In this case, you can see the 2-2 day confirms it. Last week, or actually at the beginning of this week, you'll see the inside bar here, which causes the weekly to break. Right, so you get this nice big rally. There was the gap down, but they bought it back. So these buyers in here, they stop some of them out, but then they reclaim they're coming back in. We drop it down. You'll see in here, there was the momentum 30, which goes for 30 minutes and then gets countered by, I'm not sure if that's inside bar or 2-2 reversal. And then right up in here. So you can see that triangle, it's already being drawn out for you by the 2-2 reversal that marks the lows there. And then the inside bar forms, you can draw this stuff out. So you'll notice the 1-2-2 hammer rev strat this morning, followed by the 2-1. This is momentum hammer, right? So your stop is spread plus a penny and it just goes, right? Followed by a 2-1-2 buy, stop goes at the low of this. Right? It's not momentum. And 2-1-2 buy more, right? Stop at the low of this, not momentum. It stops you out. And there's the hammer in here to try and get a tight stop in there, which it does go 2-2-2-2. Just does not work in the way that we're looking for the hammer counter shooter. You can see maybe another example in here. So IART at a rev strat week, 2-2 month going up. So they rallied up, right? There's some broadening formation here, plus the inside bar on the 60, buy it, stop at the low. Inside bar up, buy more, stop at the low. And I think that's a 2-2-2. See, gap up. There's some hammer counter shooter in here. They grind it up and then 2-2 back down. And they bring it down in here and then inside 60. Gap ups are tricky. So if you watch that last nightly vid with the gap, disseminating the gap, that's what you want to go and do. If you're trading a name that's specific, that's gapping, the important thing is it reclaiming or not? If it is not reclaiming yesterday's highs or lows, it is not going outside day. And that can also be expanded to, is it reclaiming last month's highs, last week's highs? If not, it's not going outside. So like crowd, for example, you see gap up, right? Did it reclaim this high in here? 317, it did not. Did it reclaim this? 315, it did not. Did it reclaim yesterday's high? It did not. That is not a gap up sell, it's staying, right? And then you can notice how this works on the 4 hour, right? So the inside bars, they're on every time frame. So it's bright green week in here, inside 4 hour hammer, momentum continuation, then up, up they go. You get to the 60. You see inside bar up, which fails, and then they chop around. Get out of that, right? Don't stay around. The 2-1-2 continuation. Stop at the low of this bar. The momentum hammer. Ripper. Boom to the highs. And then the 2-2 reversal to get out. We go to like Palantir. So it's a gap up with earnings, right? Notice how when this gaps, you can also just draw the broadening formation. Is it reclaiming the broadening formation? Well, draw something like this, right to left to include all the bars that went outside here. So rev strat. Gap, is it reclaiming that? Nah, nowhere near taking these highs out. And notice the top of the try in here. Not happening. So if we drop it down in here, just on a 15, it's like you can see they test them and they come back up, right? If we go to like a 1 minute, past 3 days, you can see they test it, hammer, boom, off the races. Hammer again, momentum. Not momentum. Yeah, you can see a hammer counter shooter, but not quite. But hammer in here again. Counter shooter, momentum and potential 3 again, right? You see hammer in here, 3-2-2, and then again, right? And then the inside and up, which does triangle they out, and then they get going. We get to the 60s on Palantir. There hasn't been many 60 signals. You can see the inside 60 here, stop at the low of this. Double inside 60, stop at the low of this. They bring it up. 2 up in red reclaims the highs of this. That's a little bit of a problem. First profit takers to take it in. And the double inside 60 here breaks up, stop at the low of this, and then they get going again. Scared? Well, the thing is if you are still right by the daily, if you're still by the daily open, or meaning like if you have a magnitude that will change that back to green, it's not gap up sell, right? So like UAA 2-2-1 shooter down, it doesn't work. It doesn't go anywhere. Okay, they're not going down. Goes 2 down again, still doesn't really go anywhere. Not going down. Hammer. Okay, now it's going up. 2-2, boom. Changes the day. Inside up, where's this going? High a day. Boom. And then you can see your broadening formation. So always in the morning, you're looking for this try to form like so, and then you want to get out of that. That's the main goal, which you're going to see in this case, it's really wide in here, so they can't really get out of that, so to speak. But what we can do is we can mark out the highs and lows of that. This is your opening. This is your outside bar at the open. And so they stay above that stuff and they're gone. And then you can see they chop them up the rest of the day. Some profit takers. Which 3s? Yes. No, you can use potential 3s. So like if you get a shooter, I'll close an example of this. So if you counter a shooter, that is momentum in the other direction. Right, so shooter weak, 2 down but green, that's momentum in the other direction. It's not a signal, right? But it's something you can see because this shooter is getting countered. So whatever shorts came in here, they're in trouble once we start reclaiming last week's lows because that shooter should have just got going right away. It's a shooter, right? So since it didn't, what does that tell you? It tells you there's a buyer back in town, right? Like you punched them in the face and then they laughed and spit their teeth out at you is what Rob would say. It's like when that happens, they're going the other way. Gotta be. You see, this was Monday, right? Punch them in the face, and they're like, "Nope, we're back in town." Right? So, 2-2-2-2-2. Which is why it's important to understand this with the signals because you can have a bullish setup. I mean, here's your momentum hammer, bullish setup, cool. Now it gaps up, it's a 2 going 3. What's that telling you? Potential outside day. So that is definitely not a buy at that point. Changes what you know to be true. Although this was a bullish setup into the morning, it's like that's gap up and it's red. So no. When it was green and up in here, it looked really good. When it flipped red, it looks terrible. not a good look. So if you go to like a 30, I think it was a 15 in here that we talked about on the stream. You see, you get the inside 15 in here, right? Right there, you get to hit it because you'll see the top of the daily try, and then we're reclaiming all this stuff. So you see, you get the sub tries in here. Poke up, inside 15, draw, right? So once that occurs, you draw right to left. It's like, okay, I have the day in 60 red right now, so I can hit this 15 for today in 60 minutes. Then you see they peak for a half hour. new 60 opens, actually right here it opens, so 30, 930. They stay red on that 60, so trade's still good. Still red on the 60. Then rev strat. These two bars inside of these two bars poke up, and these two bars go rev strat of that. This is on like a 30 chart. And they poke down. And you can see they get stuck inside. Inside bar rev strat, puke. Inside bar down, puke. Inside bar up, firms up after low day. And then they chop it around a bit. Puke, and then there's some rev strats and stuff in here. You see they make slight lower lows to this broadening formation, and then you get some longs. Hammer, counter shooter, back up. Inside bar rev strat, back up. And 2-2s against you. There's a hammer in here which fails, and then you get stuck inside. 2, 2, 2, 2. Right? If we got in when we reclaimed 20 last week, we can use the 60 minutes to find a way. Yeah. When it comes to intraday stuff, especially near the open, the 60, you don't have anything for the first 60 minutes. So you're on the right at the open, it's like 1 minute, 3 minute, 5 minute, 15 minute, 30 minute, then 60 minute. So like the first 15 minutes of the day, you got to be on the 3 minute, the 5 minute, the 1 minute. After the first 15 closes, then you can start staying on the 5 and 15s. And then after you get like the new 30s, you got inside 30s forming on the second, or you get 2-2-30s, second 30 of the day. You start hitting those then. Then this next 60, an hour after the day has already gone on, you get the first new 60 of the day. And then you can have the 60 and the 30 the rest of the day. And you can still use those lower time frames if volatility is high, but if volatility shrinks up, so you can see in the morning, it's like puke. They did hit their magnitude down here, but did not stay down. And then inside puke, right? Nice, hit it. Inside puke, and then inside chop, chop, chop. And now they're kind of just grinding down in here. If you're in on like the 5 to 10 minute while this is chopping around, you're going to get killed. So if we switch it to the 30, see, as the day goes on, right, we can use the 15s, the 5s and stuff to get entry short, but the 30 goes inside down and then inside mother bar for over an hour or two. 1, 2, 3. So 2 hours in here, stuck. Going to get killed on the 5er. And they make the lows again, and then pop back up, shooter, make the lows again, and you can see they're just kind of grinding in here. 3, poke down, and it's a little bit of a delayed rev strat of this bar, and then back in, and they start this new broadening formation, which gets bigger. You can see 3, poke down, poke up, 2-2 reversal, 2-2-2 reversal, rev strat, puke, hammer, and then they firm up, and then it gets chopping up in here again. Low, high, new low, new high. You see slight lower lows. They bring it back up in here. Then you get a rev strat on the 60, which we already talked about. That gets it finally outside of that. Look at ARM. Yeah, so for example, this is a gap down where notice how it reclaims that. Now it's not a gap down sell. It can't be. That's a potential 3. Bang. And you already have this try drawn out when this inside bar occurred, but they gapped it, so we didn't touch that the other day. We tried it on the short side, but it just didn't work, so we get out. If we go in here in the morning, see the 5 minute, back up. You could call this momentum hammer. I wouldn't, though, just continuation. If we get in here on like the 1ers, here you go. Hammer, counter, shooter, get in. Momentum hammer, get in. Right? You get slight hammer in here, get in. The inside bar reversal in here, get in. Outside bar hammer in here, ripper. And this is all in the 1 minute this morning. So you get a lot more signals in here. It's going to be quicker. Not everyone's doing that. But if you slow it down to the 15, 3, 2, and then bang. And inside in red. And they try to rev strat, fail, and then chop, chop, chop. Is this failed? Right? Fails the rev strat signal that counters hammer, pukes new lows, slight higher highs, and then chop, stuck inside. So you can see how the range gets a lot. This goes inside, and then it gets inside on the 60, inside on the 4 hour. And then we might go an inside day tomorrow. Who knows? Right? Compared to the outside day back in here, outside day, and then stuck. Like if we go to Mara today, You can see when this day is a 2 up, the magnitude's way back in here. Right, so we got big range. When it's inside in here, we don't have a magnitude. So the range decreases in size. Notice they poke down, they poke up, and here's the broadening formation. They're just chopping people up in here. We tried to get it in here to cause the day to go 2 up, it just didn't work. So let's chop, chop, chop. So they restart multiple times, which is what gets people killed. But hopefully that's making sense. I think I might be hopping off shortly here unless there's any other specifics you guys are thinking about. Awesome. All right. Well, I'm going to be heading out. Hopefully you guys were able to have a good trading day. For those of you that are in the streams in the morning, I will have my nightly vid. It might be out a little later today. I might be lazy and do it later tonight instead of right now. I guess we'll see. But I'm doing some karaoke stuff at like 7, so I'll probably leave there around 9ish, and then video will be out around 10. And as always, so with the nightly vids, last thing, if you skip towards the last like 30 minutes to like a minute of the video, you can just get the list. That's what I've been doing. So that being said, though, adios. Have a good rest of your day. I'll see you guys bright and early in the morning.